The Minister tells us that Jeremy Hunt says that primary care is the future, and so we're now moving on to a debate that looks ahead to the effects of new models of care. So if I can introduce the chair for this debate is Dr. Miles Mack, who's chair of RCGP Scotland, and the lead speakers are Dr. Jenny Bennison, Executive Officer for Quality, RCGP Scotland, and Dr. Ewan Patterson, GP and Council Member, RCGP Scotland. So, Miles, please take over.
So we believe that it was really an ideal opportunity to bring to you some of the debate that we've been having in RCGP Scottish Council, really looking at actually how we square what the new models of care are going to be to the longer term aspirations for our profession. RCGP Scotland's got a proud history of this. My predecessor, John Gillies, wrote the seminal work, The Essence of General Practice, that I'm no doubt will be being referred to. And we've updated that to a core values document, which we believe is going to be crucial in looking to what the new contract is likely to be in Scotland coming forward. So we're very happy to be here, and we're very happy for you to join into this debate. I will make the point that this is not a policy deciding forum, but this is an opportunity to debate the issues and to share with all of, and to make sure that we're getting as wide a possible input to this. I'm going to ask that each of the speakers to speak for 7 minutes, and then it's up to you to join into the debate. When it comes to it, if you'd like to find your way to the microphones at any stage to speak, please ask you, for those of you to go to the ones on your left, if you want to speak for the vote, or to the right, to your right, against the vote, and you'll see the microphones are 3 in the row. At the end of the time, we will summarize it up, and we'll take a quick vote by show of hands. So very much like to ask Ewan Patterson to propose the motion.
General practice is in dire straits. Change is now inevitable, and I'm not here to argue against the proposed changes. However, I have no doubt that these new models will spell the end of the essence of general practice. The new models impact in 3 ways. Those that lead to the loss of unrestricted and universal access, that place distance between the individual patient and their GP. Hubs, triage, skill mix, we've heard a lot about it this morning. And then those that use our clinical contact time for other roles, organisational roles in our new sort of super groupings, leadership, quality development, cluster working. Those that lead to extended roles in commissioning, service redesign, public health. And then yet more time trying to communicate within our multi-professional micro teams or out with externally along with our co-supergroupers. And then our changed clinical role. Finally, those that change the nature of that clinical contact time from true generalist to some sort of hybrid specialist with narrower focus, much less breadth. Or where we become a quasi-expert, the senior clinical decision maker, the expert generalist physician, both move the real generalist into frankly dangerous territory at loggerheads with Marinker's clinical method. Specialists aim to reduce uncertainty, explore possibility, and marginalise error. Generalists aim to accept uncertainty, explore probability, and marginalise danger. Utterly different ways of practice. And this is crucial, as tolerating uncertainty lies at the core of our more medical diagnostic role. So, why will these spell the end of the essence of general practice? This is not complicated. Fundamentally, they simply damage relationships. In the dark depths of the essence, relationship is of paramount importance. And as with all relationships, this requires trust. And in this context, trust seems to need two separate characteristics. One is professional competence, often imbued. The second is human caring. The people we serve need to feel that we care about them as people, and that one needs to be demonstrated. For some skilled practitioners, they can engender this very rapidly, but for people like myself, this needs to be earned through serial encounters between the individual patient and their own GP. And crucially, not just dealing with the obviously serious stuff, but with the lightweight and all that goes in between, so that we can demonstrate, we're afforded the opportunity to demonstrate our humanity, our compassion, our interest, where we can forge a therapeutic relationship for the time when it is truly needed. To build these therapeutic relationships, we need availability and continuity, the cornerstones of real general practice. The new models of care will erode both availability and continuity, and so decrease overall clinical contact time between the individual patient and their own GP. Relationships will suffer, trust will dissipate, the essence will be lost. And more will go. Trust underpins the acceptance of uncertainty. If that goes, then general practice itself is at risk. And finally, what is this nebulous essence? I think Rudbeck, years ago, captured it beautifully. General practice was pushed into defining itself at its own margins, leaving its very centre, its specific priorities, unfathomed by both critics and spokesmen. This is my crude attempt at a taxonomy of the essence. Dealing with the utterly undifferentiated presentation, to seek out with the patient what matters in this massively complex biopsychosocial, spiritual arena that we work in, where context, biography, premorbid awareness all hold sway. Undiagnosing the interface of illness and disease, helping our patients separate out the illness that they suffer from the disease that they might or might not have. Explaining and normalizing, for example, the sheer physicality of acute grief. Affirming and validating, acknowledging that the patient who's considering hanging himself because he's been sacked, his partner's walked out, he's no money, and he's been sanctioned, that makes a horrible perfect sense, and that is acknowledged before we move on to deal with it. Understanding, helping those we serve to simply make sense of things. As Toon puts it, the consultation is the patient's forum for coming to understand her illness, not merely a rational understanding, but an understanding which involves the emotions and which contributes to the growth of the individual. Supporting and empowering, pointing out that simply to have come through their travail takes immense courage and strength. My patients have far more resilience than I have. And then arguably our most important role, witnessing. When I first came across this term in Ione Heath's brilliant The Mystery of General Practice, I had what I think Roger Neighbour might describe it as an epiphany. Suddenly it all made sense. Kieran Sweeney, I think, took it slightly further when he said, to be with people at the edge of the human predicament, to understand them when they were there, and to some extent to let them understand me being with them at that point. Relational care rather than transactional care, using ourselves in the consultation. The doctor as drug, the therapeutic encounter, not just simply treating, but healing. The good that we can do by being humane and compassionate. Not just doing things to and for people, but by being with them in their time of need, witnessing their suffering. There lies the heart and soul of our profession, the essence. This is what we will lose. Simply through the insidious destruction of the patient-GP relationship, new models of care will spell the end of the essence of general practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Ewan. And I'll ask Jenny to oppose the motion. Thank you.
Good morning. I believe wholeheartedly that the essence of GP will survive, and I hope by the time I've finished that you'll agree with me. Here are some creatures. I'll explain later what they're all about, but just enjoy them. There's no need to rehearse the challenges we face today in general practice. We've gone over it again and again: demographics, long-term conditions, overwhelm. My argument is that the very essence of who we are and what we do as GPs, as so ably described by Ewan, is the very same thing that will allow us to continue to do what we do and to do it well. In the short time I've got this morning, I'll outline my understanding of the essence of general practice and describe briefly some new models to show how I see the essence living on, thriving even. In short, it's all about the relationship. The essence of general practice, as described after the learning journeys carried out by John Gillis and his team in 2009, included an identification of the key advantages of general practice. Topping this list, we have trust, coordination, and continuity. To expand on this, trust comes from high-quality empathic communication. It's what we do. This leads to improved concordance with treatment, the co-creation of health, more effective gatekeeping, and the avoidance of medicalization. Coordination is something we all know about, we as GPs helping to negotiate a path for our patients through the maze of individuals, teams, and organizations with which they're linked. And continuity, generated by repeated contacts, which develop and strengthen our relationships. Essence of GP also talks about flexibility, coverage, and leadership. Or to borrow from Amanda Howe's 2012 definition of medical generalism, we see the person as a whole, within their family and wider social context. We deal with undifferentiated illness over time, and we coordinate care for our patients across different organizations. We, as GPs, use these particular generalist skills to help our patients to understand and to live with their conditions. We travel with them on their journey, and we bear witness to their lives. Models of care which are now evolving include many, if not all of these characteristics, and they build on them. This year, Catherine Calderwood, in her Chief Medical Officer report for Scotland called Realistic Medicine, outlined the need to deliver healthcare that focuses on true value to the patient, avoiding waste, avoiding overtreatment, and avoiding unwarranted variation. All this in the context of shared decision-making, provision of information to the patient, and management of the inevitable risk and uncertainty. The House of Care model puts GPs at the center of the complex context in which all of our patients live. The conversation relies on, well, trust, coordination, continuity, and a trusted relationship between the doctor and the patient. Further afield, we have developments like the NUCA project in Alaska, where the mission of the South Central Foundation is to work together with the native community to achieve wellness through health and related services. This approach, again, is based on the relationship between the healthcare providers and the community and individuals within it, with a commitment to sharing the responsibility for health. Take the idea of expert generalism described by Professor Joanne Reeves. GPs acting as expert decision makers are again in the center. The GP is using her consultation skills in the context of the relationship with the patient to practice person-centered decision making and interpretive medicine. Another really important piece of work to me, Ballot and Campling's book on intelligent kindness, talks very persuasively about the idea of kinship relating to kindness, relating to connectedness and family, understanding that whatever Cameron says, we are all in this together, and that includes ourselves in our relationships with our patients and ourselves in relationships with other caregivers and other professionals in the team. This understanding and feeling of kinship can only generate trust and understanding. Is any of this beginning to sound a bit repetitive? Other new models are based around the risk of over-medicalisation or over-treatment. The 4 principles of prudent healthcare in Wales are not so very different from what we see in the Choosing Wisely campaign. And everyone knows about Iona Heath's important work around the epidemic of overdiagnosis, and the subsequent cascade of interventions which can follow this. To quote Iona Heath, what we need is the courage to always consider the timely, the concrete, the local, and the particular when we care for each individual patient, and if necessary, the courage to disregard the rules. Only on this basis can we build a resourceful and thoughtful healthcare community. I argue that our ability to do what Iona recommends relies on the almost taken for granted relationships that we build over time with our patients and with our colleagues, allowing the development of mutual trust. And mutual trust is the necessary foundation for any kind of meaningful shared understanding. I argue that our ability, and now back to the animals. Yeah, what have they got to do with anything? Well, convergent evolution is all about the achievement of goals. Multiple species from different parts of the world all reach similar evolutionary conclusions to the challenges and opportunities that they face. So, we have dolphins, which are mammals, and sharks, which are fish. Dolphins need to come to the surface to breathe, and sharks have gills, but both have evolved similar characteristics: streamlined bodies, dorsal fins, pectoral fins, and flippers, so they can swim fast through the water and catch prey. Then we have the echidna, which is an egg-laying mammal called a monotreme, and the hedgehog, an insectivore mammal. Both of these have evolved spikes and spininess so that they don't get eaten by larger carnivorous predators. Or perhaps more endearingly, we have the Australian marsupial mole and the North American placental mole, both having large front paws, small eyes, and a tapered nose, but different ways of having babies. Do you ever wonder what evolving GPs look like? Well, just look around. You'll see them. I put it to you that the essence of general practice is in constant evolution, but that new models are all reaching the same conclusion. Doctors responding with kindness, care, and compassion to the needs of patients within the context of trust, continuity, and shared responsibility. It's all about the relationship. Thank you.